What are we talking about?
We are talking about coasting. When one partner's coasting and you've got resentment, or maybe they're resentment. Okay, I'm just going to pull up my live. I'm sitting on the couch today, so I'm going to pull it up so I can get your comments here, guys. But today, remember, guys, when we do these lives every week, 3 p.m. CST, this is with my business partner, James. He works with Catherine and me very closely because he brings a lot to the table. And we want to address your questions on these lives. So while I pull up the live here, oh, it's here. Let's see. All right. Let me just mute this thing. Pull it up so I can get your comments. We want to address. Okay, so let's get to work, guys. We're talking about coasting. So we noticed that a lot of men, James, were getting a little bit bitter, a little bit resentment filled, and we know that contempt is a leading cause of divorce. And we've talked to them on some trainings this week about what that looks like, because you have a partner that's checked out. So before we dive too far in, we did not talk about this on our app, but I think it's important for you guys to all really understand something integral to the process when you're trying to create a new marriage. And that is that it does not fucking take two. Stop saying that it takes two, because if you are dependent on your partner, then it's already not working. Right? If you want more, do more. Let me just quickly preface. We filmed a podcast episode today, guys. Moral Marriage, fastest growing marriage podcast. I'll put the link in the chat for you here. But we essentially, sorry. Okay, there it is in the chat. So what we noticed is that when I would tell a man how to respond to his wife, James, like she hands him divorce papers. She says, "Don't say I love you." She says, "Don't text me. I'll block you." I tell a man to do something, right, with that, for the divorce papers, for example. And these went pretty viral. The divorce papers would say something like, "Hey, babe, awesome. Let's do s'mores later. I was excited. I needed something to start the fire. You in?" Meaning we're just moving it forward. Okay. And a lot of women, a lot of you follow me, and a lot of women got pissed off. That's manipulation. That is bullshit. I.e., she's the checked out, coasting, she wants it over thing. I don't know. I said thing. Apologies. Spouse. Okay. But how different is that? Does that mean that you're manipulating him because you want a divorce and you're handing him papers? That's how stupid that statement is. Right. So if I want to have s'mores, I'm manipulating you. But if you want to have me divorce papers, you're not. There's no fucking difference there. So if we understand that your partner is not in, that's all you need to understand. Lose the fucking resentment. Lose it right there. Hey, James, like we already know why we're getting papers. We already know why there's an affair. We already know why we're kicking each other, pushing each other, shoving each other, verbally vomiting on each other. We know all of this shit. So why are we resentful? Do you want to be someone different? Right?
Yeah. It's funny. You mentioned that today and one of your calls, the guy kept saying, "I'm just confused. I'm confused. She's excited about moving out." And it's not confusion. What's up. It's denial.
It's denial. Yeah. You say it much nicer. I called the guy a fucking idiot.
What's going on? Yes, you do. You know what's going on, and it's all up to you to take responsibility to figure that out on what you need to do next steps to actually change the outcome.
Hands down. I said we were both talking, so I'll say it again. You say it much nicer. You call it denial. I called him a fucking idiot. I think I even went further and said even
too, but
that's a derogatory term, which I probably shouldn't say on a live. But like, here's the thing: if you know everything led up to this, and your partner is resentful, then why are you taking it personal? Right. You decided that you want to do something different. Now, a lot of you don't know this yet, but check out the profile. Catherine's content starting to come out. It's not going to be a lot. It's one a day of the podcast, so like say 6 a week of the podcast, so you can see Catherine's perspective in a lot of the times. But as you know, I talk a lot. And then there's going to be her own reels, because women have the power to be the one in control, standing their own strength. But men, excuse me. I just sent a DM to a dude, James. I was doing DMs like another like crazy amount, but this dude's been going back and forth. He's so upset. All you do is put it on the man. All you do is put it on the man. Yeah, I do. Because I think that if I would have put it on myself a lot fucking faster, then everything would have happened faster. But women, the real story is Catherine took responsibility, loved me in a different way, and I got to work and she was the catalyst. So you don't know your own strength. Regardless, one of you is coasting. If you're watching, you're the one in. Yeah. Why are you so resentful? You're the one who wants more. How is your resentment going to get you more? Right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah, being resentful is just a sign of insecurity. I mean,
Oh
let's
yeah,
just
I
be
love
honest
that.
with it. And I mean, we hear about the insecurity monster, the insecurity monster, the insecurity monster. We hear it all the time.
Hmm.
Hear about the nice guy. We talk about these things constantly. Insecurity monster are in women too. Nice girl are in women too. But the bottom line is that the reason that there's a trigger, the reason that whatever's happening with your partner bothers you is because there's an insecurity there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it boils
And
down to.
and he talked about the trigger that you have with your partner and everything, right? Notice your own triggers though too. Troy says, "What's the best way to stop myself from emotional dumping on her when I feel it coming? I'm still working on changing why I do, but what if it's coming?" You already recognize it's coming.
Right.
Listen, I filmed some reels this week that'll come out in a couple weeks, but it like I pull a trigger and I explain it. You could put your finger on the trigger, but it does nothing. There is a gap between you responding, or we'll call that reacting. When you pull the trigger, that's the gap. And then there's a reaction that happens, the explosion, the pistol shooting,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
If you know you're feeling triggered, it's not about identifying, oh crap, that's the thing that gets me. No, man. You need to know that there's a gap in between that you must be in control of, because who do you want to be?
That's right.
That's it. Now, you brought up when we did the call with the guys, you did highlight the importance of identifying why the trigger is there or where it comes from. Why don't you explain that?
Well, I think it's important, especially in our process. We have a twofold process. We have a process of learning who you are, and a process of gaining the tools and the skills to to hold the space while you grow into an authentic person.
That's right.
And so it's like I mean, there is no kryptonite to this process. The only weakness is quitting. And so the point I make there is that we get to a place of just wanting to dismiss it or either wallow in it. So there is a time during during the discovery of one's identity and understanding how to witness and experience things rather than just being driven and feel all the time.
Yeah.
We do take time out, but we don't do that to the detriment of our growth, because the worst thing you want is to sit in your feelings, to go back to the pain, or to sit around and become a victim. Oh, I did this, or this was done to me, or this is how I experienced this. So there is a time where you can say, okay, this is why. And the reason that the why is so important in our program is the why gets you to a thing that you can get rid of to become the you,
That's right.
through you. Not
That's
so
right.
you can have power, so that you can no longer have to deal with it.
That's right. You guys, if you understand why, you can realize that typically whatever is that's triggering you is causing an emotion. And we know emotions are the root of all failure.
Yes.
Okay. You, for example, perpetuate the cycle of an affair with your partner. How do we know that? Because you're like, who are you talking to on their phone?
Yeah.
Eventually they get tired of being asked the same question. And what do? They start talking to somebody on the fucking phone because it's safer than you. And that doesn't always mean they're talking to somebody. For a long time, they are doing something like looking at animal rescues, like Catherine did when I used to question her all the time. Okay. And when you understand that and you peel back the why, you realize that you're insecure, you're scared. You are afraid of what? Losing them. You're afraid of not being good enough. Once you start to understand all that, you can let the fucking why go and peel back that layer and go, I'm not insecure. I'm acting insecure.
Yeah.
Then I can start to show up the way that I authentically want to be.
That's right.
Just ask yourself a question. Do you want to wonder why you want to pull up your phone and look for Friend Finder to see where your wife is, or whatever you call it, 365 or whatever?
Yeah.
Or would you rather be like super excited that they come home and just be ready to have some fun? Like, we all know what we want, but we perpetuate the shit that we don't, pulling that trigger, that gap between the stimulus. Oh my gosh. I wonder, it's some of these stimuluses, James, we create ourselves. Like back when I was so insecure, I would literally root through the garbage looking for condoms. Like, that's
Like
if they used one,
right?
right?
And like,
You
that's
know?
what they'd be. I mean, and that's an interesting point to bring up too, is a lot of times our triggers and the fact that, like, we're someone who's not engaged, that's sort of where we took it with our men's community, but we're triggered because of these insecurities, and these insecurities are fueled by these ridiculous outlandish fantasies. This idea, the most absurd, off the wall stuff that there's no basis for in reality. So there's no evidence. But until you recognize that, that's one of the coolest things about discovering your true self, is that you recognize, man, I'm insecure. This used to bother me. Then I'd go down this route, then I'd go down that route, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one thing led to another. And so when we find out and we discover that we're really just letting our mind run crazy, the gap gets longer and longer, to the point that the triggers don't even move us anymore. We
100%. I describe insecurity like a monster. In my program, I say insecurity is a monster, and it grips you and it rips you apart and sends your mind in 19 directions. What James is talking about here is when you do the kind of work that we're describing and you realize that that is not who you are, whatever caused that, and I'm going to tie this into Cheryl's question here, whatever caused that in the past, your mommy, daddy issues, exes, your partner, Cheryl's partner is having affairs and won't admit the full extent of what happened. He says he changes, gets angry, and leaves. Here's the thing. Okay, so you both have your own layers to peel back there. Okay, he probably gets angry and leaves because he's tired of hearing about it. Catherine would tell you, stop fucking asking. On my podcast, you can listen to the apology problem question. I think it's 252. You have an apology problem. You're looking for an apology for the affair, but that's not going to heal your insecurity.
Right.
Him understanding why he had an affair and loving you so fucking passionately, Cheryl, as a lover, a player, a magnet, as a man with purpose who still has prioritization for you, and you know it. That's what's going to make you feel better. But if you're dependent on him, you'll never actually allow it to happen. Catherine would describe that as an anchor. You're anchoring yourself, you're anchoring his growth, and you are providing a platform for always hurting. We see most women get like that. I shouldn't say women. I'm thinking about when I'm speaking with my men. I think it's both. Hey, James, like when somebody's insecure and worried, they want that damn apology instead of realizing, man, if he just understood how I feel and why he hurt me, how he hurt me, that's what you want. But we're training ourselves and our partners, just like we did when we were children, to say sorry for cheating. Admit it. It wasn't just emotional. What else did you do? But Cheryl, that's not going to make you happy. Okay. Right. And then if you peel back the layers, there was something that led up to that. 23 things happened before an affair. It's non-biased. Yeah. Woman's affair, man's affair, doesn't matter. It's cascade of betrayal. Physical affair is number 24. I look at it like the red light drunk example. You ran the red light. Okay. He's drunk and he hit you. Well, you're still fucking dead. Doesn't matter. He's going to go to jail longer, but it doesn't matter. You still ran the red light. And if you didn't run the red light, chances are he wouldn't have hit you drunk. Okay. Right. So if we can understand that, we can create a new life, a new marriage with lots of trust, a ton of trust. But first, what did I do differently? What could I have done differently? Right.
That's right. Yeah. And there's a big difference. I say this every time we have a discussion like this in public, but there's a big difference in responsibility and blame. Yeah, you may not be to blame for the drunk driver, but you sure as hell did make a decision that put you in his path.
Yes.
And it might not even have been it might not have been anything you could have changed, but don't pass the buck on responsibility. Little things like that actually put you in the different camp. Like if you're wanting to see reconciliation in a relationship, it feels a lot different than recompense. Like you want some payback.
Mm-hmm.
And one gets you freedom. The other one actually puts on more chains.
100%. Like even Cheryl here, she's a perfect example because we're talking about resentment today. And when your partner's in essence, your partner's coasting. If they're having an affair, they're not checked into you. Okay. Now, if you think about how you're writing your comments, I've never been dependent on him. I have been a leader in the relationship, carried him for years like my child, and he repays me with an affair. He repays me with an affair. Such a contemptuous statement.
Right.
You know what I mean? Number one. Okay. Number two, you're not a leader if he's not following you.
Right.
James says it best. He says this probably once a week on coaching calls with our men. And he says, hey, you can be leading. You can be out front. You can be growing, rising, standing up, saying, hey, come follow me. But if you turn around and your partner's not on board, nobody's behind you, you're not a leader. That means that you probably still have more work to do inside.
Yeah.
Right? That means you probably have more work to do to learn more. I say this almost every week on these lives. If Catherine and I have spent $500,000, over $500,000, we bought 2 courses last week, both of us, one course each last week. So if we're still investing and then yet we keep innovating the field, James partnered with us to innovate the field. Okay. He said, I see what you're doing. I have something I can talk to you about. Boom. We have more to offer. That's not being done before. If that's the case, then you haven't learned how to be a partner yet. I mean, if we still learn, how can you say that you've done everything?
Yeah.
So if you're leading and they're not following, Cheryl, it's not that you've been a bad person. It's that we have to figure out what we're missing. I teach you guys, focus on what you can't, not what you can, because we can all do what we can. But exceptional people, they do everything they can't. When they get good at that, they go find some more they can't. And we keep going, and we keep going, and we keep going. Right, James?
That's right. That's right. Cheryl, and listen, girl, I feel your pain. I understand as an empath. I understand the hardship and the turmoil that you're going through, and the fact that you did so much for him. Nobody can take that away from you. What we like to point out, though, is that in this space, the contempt that you have, the frustration that you have, the idea of always putting on him. I mean, here, you said it right there. You put him on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
Where is there to go on a pedestal but off and down?
Yeah. And so this is the nice guy.
Place.
That's the nice guy thing, right? Like we talk about nice guys, but a man named Dr. Robert Glover created something called the nice guy syndrome in 2003 in a book. Okay. But and he gave a lot of reasons why a man becomes this way and all that shit. But at the end of the day, there's nice girls too. If you're putting your partner on a pedestal, besides what James said, there's only one place to go is down. He's also looking down on you, Cheryl. Right. And so if you understand that, you create covert contracts. What that means is you love, and you're describing it in your messages and you don't realize it. I love so hard, but he doesn't try as hard as me. That's the very first way I start to get guys hooked to understand what they're doing wrong. She doesn't try as hard as me. Okay. That's what you're saying. Okay. And now we know that when you love him, you're hoping to get something in return. And I'm not saying you don't deserve a reciprocal relationship.
Loyalty.
But you see, pardon me?
I said like loyalty.
Yeah. Like loyalty in your case, right? It doesn't work that way. You just are loyal. You just don't want to hurt somebody. Like men always say something stupid on calls to me, gosh. And it's like, well, I mean, I could cheat, but I don't. Okay, shut the fuck up. I don't give a fuck. You know, who are you, Cheryl? So you're doing a great job there. But you see, what happens is the expectations with somebody on a pedestal, they can never meet them. They can never meet them. They always feel like that when you love them 1 minute until they don't love them, you don't get the love back that you want to receive. So you shut down or you get angry and you blame them. And in those cases, those are two people that are not you. Where's the person that loves consistently? Because that person without resentment can decide if they're going to deal with a coasting partner. But we already know 99% of people are actually resentful and upset. They justify why they should leave. They justify talking to people for validation. They justify all of these coping mechanisms. And if you understand that, Cheryl, it'll help you really release the fact that you're putting him there as your identity. Women do this with kids too, right? Guys do it with their job a lot. When you let that go, you realize there's a man or a woman behind those things, right?
Yep. That's right. Yeah, and it's crazy, Cheryl. I hear you, and I see this there. And then Jamie, you're chiming in. There's a great affinity here with a lot of women through the years, bro. They've worked their butts off. They've done everything. They've managed everything. They're not necessarily in the sense of how we define leading, but they're providing. They're doing it all. They've taken all the responsibility. And at the same time, there's something deep within them that says, I'm doing this, then he'll love me. I'm doing this, then he'll be loyal. I'm doing this, then he'll never X. But what happens is it creates this behind the scene expectation that ends in nothing but resentment. And so when we get here, no one is saying that these men who are unfaithful and worthless and sorry and all these things that you say, no one's saying that that's not true. What we're saying is, if you want to be a victim and you want to be a survivor, that's all you'll ever be. But you're worth more than that. You're greater than that. And if you want a marriage, the only thing that you can do at this point is to show up, be transformed, be authentic, and see if your husband follows you. If he don't follow you, he's going to break the tether. Right now, it's a totally different game. It's resentment and frustration and hurt and anger, which are all justified. Nobody's saying they're not. The question is, you said, I still love him. Well, love is only defined in this way. Love is a active decision of the will to put someone else as a priority. It's not has anything to do with how you feel. And you love your husband for all these years, for 20 years, and the way that you thought worked. But right now, you taking responsibility is probably the greatest thing you can do. Why? Because if you can't love you, and if this relationship has destroyed your self-worth, it shows that you didn't really love yourself or know yourself.
So yeah, let me speak to that. Let me speak to that, you guys, because there's a bunch of comments coming in about this right now. Listen, we're talking about resentment for a reason. Look, I can tell that you guys are resentful. You enabled the behavior to happen. I got news for you, man or woman, because by the way, we probably have, I want to say probably 35 guys right now, maybe 25 guys, I don't know, with wives having massive affairs, wives bringing new men around children, wives sleeping with fucking women. We see it on both sides, okay? But I got news for you. Nobody has an affair if you're fucking awesome. It doesn't work that way. You might get the one random who's got an issue, okay? But if you know the statistics with affairs, okay, when you're not married, it's 19%, okay, women, all right, 23% men. When you are married, it's 19% men and 13% women. Those are real statistics that have not changed in decades. So I got news for you. You're not so great. And I'm sorry that that hurts. But James is saying it perfectly clear. Showing up and taking responsibility for what you can do. Nobody leaves somebody, gets a divorce, says, fuck you, kicks you in the balls if you're fucking awesome. Do the math. Have you ever been to the grocery store and somebody just walked up to your smiling face and punched you? You guys got to do the fucking math here. Okay? Yeah. It doesn't work that way. Now, I'm not saying that it's all your fault. They made a bad moral choice. I understand that. But you have enabled the behavior to get worse, man or woman. Okay? What James is talking about, what we teach in our program, is simple. And Catherine in her program as well. How you take responsibility for yourself and what you allow to happen to you anymore versus standing in your own strength and having some patience. Because it's not the same as starting over. You're repairing. There's a lot of damage. There's a lot of trust issues with the affairs that are coming up today.
That's right.
You know there's a lot of pain and nobody gets to decide what hurts you more. Nobody. I filmed some reels this week, James, with Daniel, and it's my videographer, and I licked a toilet. I'm going to talk about on a reel. That's a visual hook, okay? And I'm going to talk about how my parents made me do that growing up. You know, you might say, oh, at least you didn't get beat. You don't get to decide, man, what hurts your partner.
That's right.
You don't. Okay? It's our own trauma. And your trauma probably has a lot more to do with your spouse. The typically in the affair situations, you're having like what abandonment issues, your dad wasn't around, excessive alcoholic from one of your parents, all of this other stuff happened. Think about it. Typically, this isn't the first partner that's cheated on you. Hi, I'm Cass. And when I was Ryan, every girl pretty much cheated on me. I can think of 3 that did not.
Yeah.
I picked that. I enabled that. But see, in my growth discovery in this journey, since Catherine and I saved our marriage, I looked back. There was even some exes that I called up. Now, I don't recommend that, okay? I made a mistake at the time, but I called up and say, I'm sorry. I know why you cheated. The reason I don't recommend that is because that's not conducive to your marriage now and what you're doing, okay? But that's the level of reflection that I did. All these girls that hurt me, that I was so resentful for. Mm-hmm. They were ghosting, they were cheating, they were doing all these bad things to me. It's like all the chat victims here, man. You guys are victims, man. When you understand that you're in control of your choices, nothing can happen to you. It doesn't work that way, you know?
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's tough. And Cheryl, I see you there too, in the sense that, you know, there's a lot of regret. But the question is, you know, where are you today? And what decision are you going to make today that's going to move you forward for tomorrow?
Move your tomorrow. That's right.
Tomorrow. Because it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel the hurt, but use it, then stand up and take responsibility for only what you can handle and only what you can control, which is you. And it has nothing, but see, that's the way it works though in the relationship space. We like to feel like somebody understands our pain, and a lot of people do. But at the end of the day, me licking a toilet doesn't seem as bad as me getting beat over the head with a rake. But I don't get to decide that my punishment or my abuse was any worse than Cass's, because at the end of the day, the boogeyman that's never been under any child's bed still scares the shit out of them.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I love that analogy. Cheryl, I want to give you something super powerful that we've been doing a little bit differently recently in our programs. And that is that we are not, because you talked about boundaries here. You can't do boundaries now. There's no respect. By the time you have an affair, divorce papers, kicking the balls, physical abuse, just like completely shut down, drinking, ignoring you. Like by the time nobody gives a shit, or they don't give a shit, they're the ones coasting, checked out. Boundaries don't do anything. That's just something that the world tells you to do to protect yourself. They're also going to support your divorce. You wouldn't be watching this if you didn't think or hope for a little more.
Right.
Turn things around. Okay. I know that you might be looking to see if there's a way out. And I know there's lots of people that you can go to for that. We are not the company for that.
Right.
We are all about disrupting divorce. So I want to give you something. You have to be very, very careful when it comes to enabling your partner. You've already done what you have, which has led to where it's gone to. Okay. But a lot of times people still try to connect too far. It's one of the things we're noticing in the program, James. A lot of men trying to climb the rejection ladder with their wife. It's something that I teach, something I created as we innovate the field. And, they're stat responding. So responding, not reacting. They're trying to lead their wife up this ladder, but their wife is having an affair. This goes both ways. Okay. Why the fuck? Like I hear a guy having sex with his wife. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Her penis was just inside her, man. You can't be building both lives.
Right.
Right. So you're not structuring the future. This is why things get enabled. You don't have to go all the way either. Right. You could be cuddling way too intimately. I told the guys, for example, this week, I told one of my guys, I said, when she tried to kiss you, what did you do? Well, I just pushed back. Well, last week he kissed her back and he was all over it and went places. Right. At first, that sounds good. But I looked at him and said, why don't you just say this? Hey, babe, you single yet? I'm not fucking with that. You know what I mean? But you still show up doing everything else you're supposed to do. Catherine will tell you the same thing, women. Okay? James, do you have anything while I look at the comments here?
Well, Jamie Martin asked the question, how do you live with an unrepentant spouse? You work on yourself and help me stand firm against future attacks. I don't want to be a victim or stuck anymore.
Love it.
Tired of the people who hurt me saying I need therapy, but they aren't willing to give me space to heal or find healing for themselves. Yeah.
I don't think you need space to heal. That's a big misconception. I think it's the exact opposite. Okay. What we do in our program is we pair you with people that are healing or healed. Why? Because you want to move where you're going. It's the same thing as if I want to be rich, I hang around 5 rich people. They teach you, they show you tricks. Okay. Now, you might feel like you need space from your partner, but if the ultimate goal is to be healed with them, then Catherine and I and James will always tell you, well, that makes zero fucking sense. We hear that all the time. Counselors telling people, take some space, figure yourself out, come back together. Okay, then just go sign up divorce papers right now. It doesn't work that way. You're already living life and it's already fucked you over. So don't want to be a victim. I absolutely love that. Then don't be a victim. Just be in there. Excuse me. Be in the relationship. Start healing. Now they are unrepentant. That's nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with you. He screams at you and blames you all the time. Check what I said earlier with the apology problem, Jamie. Like, do you need an apology or do you want that behavior to be different? Cool. Lead the behavior that you want. Lead with that. That's why you can be respectful even if you're disrespected. The respect is earned in the disrespect. Why? Because you can't be a fucking prick or a cunt all the time to somebody who's nice to you. And if they still are, I promise you, we'll disrupt divorce with your next marriage. Like, come on, let's get real.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Dead end. This isn't a dead end free fall. When you find yourself and you show up, Jamie, in such a way that you've provided the structure for where you want to go. You've been honest, open, and authentic. You're not reactive. And your spouse just continues to just like, to hell with it. You'll help him pack his bag when it's time for him to leave.
And you know something, Jamie? It's scary for people to think that way because the whole purpose of watching Moral Marriage is to try to move everything the way you want it to go, right? But it's scary to think that way. But the amount of times that's what has to happen is, see, you've already hit your rock bottom, whether it's you're just tired of all the pain, whether it's they served you, they had the affair, whatever it is, you've hit your rock bottom. And when the pain is greater in the rock bottom than it is to change, that's when people change. Now, you have an unrepentant partner, or you have somebody who's very bitter, negative sentiment override, contemptuous, blames you all the time. Fuck narcissist. I don't care. Okay. What happens is you sit there and you get back into who you don't want to be. You start becoming the very person you were trying to save, yourself. That's all it started with, was yourself. And you forgot that you should have gratitude for your partner. Wasn't for them, you wouldn't want more. That's why you're listening to Moral Marriage, right? So when you start to just reality check yourself, and we do that in our programs, of course, for obvious reasons, but then you start to realize you can control more of these choices, and the contempt fades away. The resentment fades away. You know why your partner's coasting or checked out. You start to realize aha moments, light bulbs, click, 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 like the apology one. You think you need an apology. That's because your parents said, hey, you bit your sister, say sorry.
Yeah.
Parents didn't teach you what that even meant. Should you feel bad for doing that? That's the fucking lesson that nobody gets. And now you want it from your partner. Don't you want them to know why so they never fucking do it again?
That's right.
That's what matters. And you can't lead them to that. Again, you're the one in, so you're the one leading. We know that because you're the one watching. So you can't lead them to that if you don't even know who you are and where you're going. My wife can have a bad fucking day. She can say something pretty mean. In fact, we teach don't use wit as a weapon, James, in the program. She's been using wit as a weapon.
Of course she has.
I let it go for like 6 or 8 weeks. And I was going through my mind going like, because it's a lesson we figured out very early on, even through the depths of hell. But it was bothering me, but it wasn't bothering me. Because I was like, I was kind of excited, James. I was like, man, I'm getting so much of Catherine. Like, she must feel so safe. She knows I won't unleash on her anymore. That she's just being clever. She's direct. She's witty. She's brilliant, you know? And so there was a little bit of wit as a weapon. After like 6 or 8 weeks, I was just like, babe, that's enough. There's no fucking contempt. We just had a conversation.
Yeah.
You guys are all trying to talk through all your issues.
Right.
Oh man, that's a healthy place for me because we're connected to say, I don't like that. It doesn't make me feel very good.
Yeah. There you go.
You know? And then you guys, what's that?
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways. And you receive it because you have a healthy environment. You have a healthy understanding of who you are. When someone doesn't like something that you do, it's not a reflection on the value that you hold or your identity. I think Jamie, or it might have been Cheryl, the comment left me, but she says, what do I do? He says, if I leave him, he'll hurt himself.
Yeah, that's not your responsibility. That's just not. It's not. And most of the time it's horseshit, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know this sounds very harsh. It's not your burden to keep someone else from doing something stupid when they use it as a terroristic threat.
Especially when it's a terroristic threat. That's abuse. Okay. But don't hold that to them. Think about how we teach you at Moral. Love him through that.
That's right.
Maybe that must be very scary for you to feel that damaged that you want to leave. Why? Because if you know that you need to figure out who you are and grow in your strength, then why wouldn't you have grace for him?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, I'll be a lot harsher, but that's on my content, you guys. If a guy DMs me, fuck, man, I get him on the phone and I'm fucking get him off the ledge, man.
That's
You know what I mean? Like, you can get your partner off the ledge. Just like when we talk about triggers, I talk about the example of so you have the trigger. That's the thing that happens. There's the gap between it. And then there's the reaction, the explosion out the other end of the pistol. Okay. But you can help your partner put the fucking gun down, man. Put your fucking gun down first. Respect first. Give gratitude first. Be loyal first. Be affirming with affirmation, edification first. Acts of service first. You think you're a doormat. You're not. You're influencing your partner. If you guys can influence each other for the bullshit, then you can influence all the positive too. And
Yes.
if you don't believe me, listen to Catherine and my story. Go listen to our podcast. I mean, listen to how we were each in at different times, one in, one out, all the bullshit. We both recognize if we both just would have stayed the course, not
That's
do
right.
the hokey pokey in and out, right? If I would have just done that, then I would never have had to deal with Catherine and all of her distrust for years and believing the changes were real.
Right.
If Catherine will say the opposite, she'll say, if I just would have, this is how serious it is. You all know that I was responsible for 90% of the abuse in the relationship. Okay. I'm the narcissist. I was the one who emotionally, physically, and sexually assaulted Catherine. Okay. I'm the one who almost went to jail. You know what Catherine's exact words are? I took 100% of the 10% of the damage that I caused. But I could have prevented almost all of the abuse. You know, she'll say the abuse wasn't her fault. That's the red light example. Go watch earlier if you missed it. Okay. But the point, I mean, I tease her, James. I'm like, oh, see, it is your fault. You could have prevented it all.
There you go.
Because we're connected. Okay. But at the end of the day, that's how serious this is. You are responsible for your choices. And Catherine already recognized that if she didn't push me, if she didn't defend herself, if she didn't try to stand up in her righteousness, that probably most of the abuse wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And how do we know that? What's the real proof? Well, the real proof is after all the abuse, she was the catalyst to supercharge my growth when she did all those things. And you guys are sitting here defending yourself. Fuck, man.
That's the difference in walking on eggshells and not poking a bear.
Yeah.
One is a desperate place to live and an abusive experience, and the other is just stupidly smart.
Stupidly smart.
Yeah.
It sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you understand that inherently we as people, we all want love, but we relate to pain faster.
That's right.
Then you understand you can create opportunities for love and decide to leave the pain. That's why every time you ask me on a call, hey, how's it going? Best day of my life.
In my life.
Go to the football game with the kids. Take the kids to football and cheer. Hey, how's it going, Cass? Best day of my life. Everywhere I go. Same with James. Same with the guys in the program. Why? Because you're responsible for your choices. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Cindy says, and I want to be very careful with this, James. I think you're going to love this. Cindy says, I went and put on a pink dress so I'll feel better. Still waiting to feel better. Cindy, you can't put a mask on what you're hurting with, right? That's why James partnered with Catherine and me. It was a program I did last year to teach you guys to just identify who you are. And James was better at it, actually. So he joined us and he put his program in with our programs. And I'm sure he's going to have lots to say here. But the pink dress, I get it. It's like affirmation statements. They're important and needed. Right. But there's a lot more work that's more integral. Wouldn't you say, James?
Absolutely. Because, I mean, let's use the dress. And listen, I get that. Okay. I get it. There's nothing better than getting up, going out in the evening or whatever, putting on some nice clothes and feeling like $1 million. It really does boost confidence in some sense, but it's not who you are.
That's right.
And we're using this, and it's not to say, hey, you go put on as many dresses as you need to get through this season of your life, but it's a perfect example of what we do in our emotional life, in our identity as well. We say, oh, I'm walking on eggshells. I'll put on this. Oh, maybe if I look this way, maybe I'll feel better if I could just have, discover, be, get, or get from. But guess what? If the foundation of your worth and the foundation of your beauty and the foundation of your joy is dependent upon anything outside of you, you are always going to be a slave to whatever that is. And so what we do is we cover ourselves up with a costume or a mask or a dress or an action or a word or not saying something.
Coping mechanisms.
Whatever it may be.
Whatever it is. It's all sabotage.
Yeah.
It's all sabotage. You know, just to put this in perspective for you guys. So after I almost went to jail, I had a year that if the cops were called, then I was going to go to jail. Okay. Yeah. And that's why Catherine inherently didn't believe if you know the story, that's why she didn't believe my changes were real. Okay. So I was used to and grew up fighting every single day to the point, I always say my parents paved the next 2 decades of my life because the first 20 years of my adult life, what I did was I tried to pick a fight every single day, every day. And if I was dating you, you got the worst of it. And Catherine, I guess because I loved her, fuck, man, I destroyed her. I don't know. It just, you hurt the ones you love the most. We all know it. We shouldn't do it. Okay.
Right.
So before I did my growth, one of the big catalysts for my change, besides Catherine, but my own reflections, was going 3 days without a fight. So instead of like week-long fights, keeping Catherine home, basically locked in the house sometimes, just so I could scream at her, fight her, stop fighting with other people, because I couldn't have any police interaction or I was going to jail. No speeding tickets, not okay. And so it was a condition. So I just looked at Catherine. I leaned in after, I don't know how long this was. Let's just pretend it was 3 months because I don't have the answer. She probably does. But I said, this is amazing. We're fighting every 3 days.
Mm.
And Catherine leaned in further and said, that's not normal. Okay. Now keep in mind, this is when she was it's like around the time where she was her abusive self. When she only had about 3 or 4 months of it where she was her turn. Oh boy, was it her turn. But what I learned was that it felt better. I didn't need Cheryl. I think it was Cheryl. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Jamie. I'll just pretend it was Cheryl. I didn't need Cindy. I didn't need Cindy's pink dress. I learned that I was responsible for the opportunities to create joy.
Yeah.
In how I was. What was the lesson? The lesson was, it's not that we were fighting every day and not fighting every day now. The lesson was, I liked laughing more.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed not losing my voice.
Right.
I enjoyed so many positive things that when she said, that's not normal, I decided to be responsible for my choices. Now, this was nowhere near why I teach what I teach now, but it was a big start for me, James, and don't hold me to the pink dress thing, of course, but you know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah. It's so interesting because this is something, just to segue on what you just said, is that we spend a lot of energy emotionally. We spend a lot of relational energy focusing on what we don't want rather than going where we do want. And you saw that in the fitness industry. I've seen it in the counseling industry. I've seen it in all sorts of things. And if we would just go where we want to go and not allow anybody else to pull us back into the place we don't, not only will we be free, but we'll be happy because we're where we're supposed to be. And so if you want this, then choose this and go get this.
Yes.
Nothing's standing in your way except the lack of decision or the fear. That's it. The fear of what? Well, I don't want to be single. Are you going to be single miserable? Or are you going to be single happy? That's not up to you because you can't control the outcome of another person's decision.
And that's the same for you guys married. You're going to be married, happy or not. Like it really is that simple. So you think when I talk about laughing a moment ago, right? Well, but your wife's laughing with you. No, that's not always the case. In fact, it was not always the case. So if I talk like this on the podcast, Catherine's comment is almost always verbatim. Do you know her story? That's not how it was, right? I have some reels coming out where I'm wearing a German outfit and like doing my stat response with a German accent, James. And like when I started doing things like that, Catherine thought I was an idiot, like a fucking idiot. Okay.
Yeah.
Because she thought it was bullshit. She thought it was fake. She thought it was all just an act to try to get her to fall for it again.
Right.
Okay. What you have to understand is, hey, you know what? That's actually an authentic step in my journey. I didn't do accents when I was young because my dad made fun of me because he was good at accents. Okay. So I, in fear, didn't do it. But when I became myself and I just used the accents, of course, she thought I was fake at first.
Right.
But see, if you know the whole story, which your partner doesn't need to know the whole story, I'm just filling you in. It's not fake. It's real. And so I just keep doing it. And after a while, it becomes part of who I am.
Yeah.
When I do that, I prove my changes are real. You see, you have a coasting partner, guys. Most of these comments here today, you're supporting yourselves on trying everything. I call bullshit because as you all know, and Catherine tells women this all the time too, as you all know, you try until you don't like it anymore. And then you pull back, you shut down, you ditch on responsibilities. The amount of women today, I think it's a handful. There's not a lot of people on today, but I think 5 or 6 women talking about how you do all of this and all of that. You are very fucking entitled. Because if you're in a partnership, you should be doing that stuff. So do your fucking job. It's not on you to get something in return. It's on them. And that's what you're holding against them instead of realizing why would they want to give back to you? Because the moment you don't get what you want, you shut down or you yell. Like all the women that have talked about the things that he says to you today, use it as evidence that I'm crazy. How many times did you act crazy? Let's get fucking real for a second. Because if you can't get that real with yourself, Jamie, you're not going to get there, girl.
Right.
You're not. You know, again, 90% of the abuse was mine towards Catherine. Catherine got this real, like I'm talking about today, with herself. And she got to work. And then she said, she stands in her own strength. You don't know your power. And she loved me a different way.
That's right.
And now I'm a different man. I'm a fucking narcissist. Chances are your husband's not a narcissist.
Probably not. Almost
no one is a fucking narcissist. Everybody acts like one when they fight. They protect themselves, defend themselves. I'm so great. You suck.
Yeah.
It's all narcissistic, guys. Get your head out of your ass. You heard me. Get your heads out of your ass and get what you want. Focus on who you want to be. And if your partner truly is fucked and they don't want the gift of love that you're going to learn to give, which you're not, all these people saying, I do all of this, I do all of this.
Yeah.
And then you pull back. That's love bombing. That's the definition of love bombing.
Yeah.
Here it is. Goodbye, I'm out. So who's the fucking narcissist?
Right.
If we're going to label somebody, should we label you? Because every single person on here that's commented today talking about everything they've done, I know you shut down. I know you've picked up your phone and ignored your partner. I know you've picked up a bottle of wine. I know that you focused on your kids more. I know that you focused on work more. I know that you did all of these things. And I also know that you defended yourself and you blamed your partner and you told them that. You told them what they did wrong, which means you are also a narcissist in your definition.
That's right.
And just based on your definition. Forget the DSM, which is how we understand what that is. Okay, Google it. But forget it. Just based off the way your brain works, you're a fucking narcissist.
That's
now,
right.
take that reality check and go love your partner in a way that inspires them to get everything you want in this life. Lose your resentment because there's no place for it now. Right, James?
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you this, when Catherine took responsibility for herself, changed and showed up consistently, guess what? Cass no longer had a damn excuse except for himself. He couldn't blame her because she didn't drive the crazy train. He couldn't accuse her because she never showed up indifferent. And that's the same thing. When we show up, when we become absolutely structured in power and in control, and when we walk authentically, it diffuses, it takes away the supply of everything around us to blame us or to point the finger. Now, they may try, but if somebody calls me a great popsicle, I don't care.
Fuck. I don't care. My new favorite lesson, my kids are all saying this every single day for the last 3 days. James, I said to him, Briar was really upset because Riddick called her a name.
Oh.
Okay. And, you know, you guys all do the whole bullshit. Sticks and stones will break my bones. Words will never. Shut the fuck up. Listen, what I said to my kids is, hey, Briar, let them talk. Let them. And then I gave a lesson. I explained to them that it doesn't matter. Briar, you're tiny. People will always tell you don't eat enough. People will always tell you it's because you're vegan, because she's been vegan since she was 2. Amazing, isn't that? Her core values. See, if you teach your fucking children, they have core values. My fucking 6-year-old is a vegan. Okay. I'm not a vegan, by the way. Her choice. Authentic people. Okay. That makes me so proud just to say that on air. But like, let them talk. Let your partner talk. It doesn't matter. See, I just want respect, intimacy, honesty. That's it. And Yvonne, that's from Jamie. And Yvonne says, I just want my marriage to be God-centered, mutual love and respect. In the spirit of let them talk. What are you saying? Like, I challenge you. What if it takes a year? Are you willing to do it? I mean, I don't think it takes longer than a year, but occasionally, but on a whole, that's kind of the long one. Otherwise, what if it was 3 months? What if you let them talk? Let them judge you. Let them criticize you. And you want respect, intimacy, and honesty. That's it. What if you made yourself respectful all the time? What if you made yourself available for intimacy? You can't just create that with someone, but you can be available to give it, right? You try to connect emotionally. Honesty. What if you always told the truth? What if you checked his reality? We both know that's not true. Okay. Like God-centered mutual love and respect. You don't get mutual if you can't do it 100% of the time. So check yourself. Stop putting it on God. Check yourself, because you have not been mutually loving and respectful all the time, Yvonne. Let's get that real with ourselves. And then you can act with not entitlement, but a reality of, you know what you deserve. But right now, it's easier to blame. See, I don't get a mutually loving and respectful relationship. So fuck that. We think about leaving. It's not good for the kids. Now I'm going to go have some wine. Before you start blaming everybody and God included, why don't you just say, I should 100% love like God?
Yeah.
Jesus loved everybody. The fuck have you done to love everybody? Stop bringing God into it. Stop asking for respect. If you've been disrespectful, you hypocrite. But you probably didn't like it when your husband called you hypocrite. I know that was my word with Catherine back in the day. Fucking hypocrite. You know? But when we get that real with ourselves, guys, we can inspire change. And it's up to you. You're the one watching. You are. You can't wait for your spouse or fucking leave. Shut the fuck up. Turn my content off. Go fucking get divorced and go start over. Repeat your cycles and blame them too. And then fucking start all over again. That's how serious you have to be with this. Let's get real. I told you earlier, I was cheated on by almost every girl I was with. Only 3 girls didn't cheat before Catherine. I'm the common denominator. Now that I know what I teach, James, nice guy. I fucking perpetuated. I was like, who are you talking to? Why are you wearing those panties? All the shit that you hear on my social media.
Yeah.
Guys, it's my mistakes on my social media.
Yeah.
It's mistakes from clients as we watch them in their discovery.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, the outcome isn't about what other people are going to do when their change comes. The outcome is, if we're getting the same thing today that we had yesterday, it's because we haven't made a step change to change.
That's right. That's right.
It's the same sandwich on the plate. Stop buying that bread.
I love this. Jamie says, I know I feel very often. Jamie, I appreciate it so much because I'm harsh. I'm direct. You know, we say I cast your ass in my program with the men, and I don't get to speak to women unless it's on these calls, occasionally helping one of Catherine's clients. Yeah. But I love it so much when somebody listens and reflects. Listen, James, she says, I know I fail very often, and I'm extremely open to all my mistakes. Just know this, girl, you're failing forward.
That's right.
You're failing forward. That's it. As long as you know you're never going to be your best version, all that hoopla these big gurus talk about is horse shit. If you're your best version, you get to sit back, put your feet up, and just relax. Well, that's what got you in the mess in the first place.
That's right.
You're never done rising. I love that, Jamie. I'm so impressed. He talks more than I. Yvonne, see, you're going back. He talks more than I do, but there's issues I'm not discussing. Catherine, I just filmed a podcast. Here's the link again, guys. It'll be out in 2 weeks. Okay. But we just filmed a podcast on talking too much. Okay. And I actually called it, because a reel went viral. I said, answer the fucking question. Was the reel? This says answer the question. Listen, if he talks too much, it's because he thinks it's important. Do you fucking love him or not? How dare you say I love you and say that's not important? That's what you're saying when you're saying you talk too much. On the flip side, if you're the one talking too much, you probably sound like a lecture. But the examples that we gave when you're connected are completely different. When Catherine and I talked on the podcast, James, we talked about her telling me about all the 17 eggs coming from Florida with the new chickens, 3 times. 4th was the time I learned the number. Why? Because it's a lot. But I'm interested every time. Why? Because it's my wife, man.
That's right.
Fucking wife. It's important to her. So it does sound annoying to hear the same thing all the time. Chicken reels, goats, eggs. I got I don't know how many fucking birds have hatched in our house in the last week. Like in the house. Our house is a giant toilet. But it's important to my wife and my children, people. Fucking dudes on my social media saying I'm such a bitch because of shit like that. That's what men and women should do for their partner. Yeah. You love like that. Shit you hate, you still do. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's gosh, there's so much here. And when we look at one of the things that we see is that when we start defending ourselves, one thing I've seen in all of this today, Cass, and then we call someone out on defending themselves. Pretty much everybody today, you know what? You're right. I see that. And that is the impetus to growth. That is the impetus to freedom. That is the spark. That's exactly what we look for as coaches in this space, is people to take responsibility, not pass the blame, not let anybody off the hook for what they've done, but what they've done is not important to what you're going to do next.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
And that's how we started out this entire broadcast. It doesn't take both people in a relationship to transform that relationship.
It just doesn't.
It doesn't.
We teach inspire. That's while you're learning. Lead while you know. Okay. And you just keep implementing. And then ask. You invite them. You love them. You understand why you're here. And then, yeah, we might have to motivate with a boundary. Motivate, not lay a boundary. What the fuck? You want more. Why are you putting a boundary down? Like, it just drives me mental, you know? Yvonne, I just want to apologize. It looks like I may have read your comment wrong. The only thing is it says he talks more than I do, ... which is why I got that impression. That's a negative thing to say, right? And so if you're talking to me like that as a coach, imagine what it's like in conversation where there's triggers, where there's resentment, things like that, okay?
Yeah.
Hey, girls, some of you got the shit beat out of you by me today. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate you. I think that that's incredible. And understand that that's what it takes.
Yeah.
I wish somebody beat the shit out of me. It would have been way fucking faster. You know what I mean? You know, would have changed a lot quicker. Would have realized it didn't take two. Would have realized that I could be a powerhouse and lead. Why you guys all follow me? Because I tell men to grow up, right? Well, you know the story now. If you've been on watching today, I didn't grow up as fast as I should have. That's why I am so hard on people, because I know what I know now.
That's
right. So women, you know, if you're looking for more, just DM Catherine, Kathryn, or go look at the new post that was written, I think yesterday. It's got, or I wrote one today too. I always tag Catherine on the written posts. Okay. Just DM her directly. Okay. That one's men should submit to their wives, I think is what I said. Okay. And it's already got like 800 million or 800 million. I wish. Woo. I think 500,000 views. I don't know where 8. See, I'm that guy. That's a lie. I have to correct it, guys.
People.
Okay? Right. But DM Catherine directly. There is a way to influence the way that Catherine did for me. You know, men, you don't have to wait for your wife. Be a fucking leader. Learn. DM me. Like, get to fucking work. Isn't life so much better on the other side, James?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And we'll take you there. We can walk with you, but we can't make you go.
No, we can't. That's the other thing we can do, guys. I can share our app. You're welcome to jump on. Okay. In there's a women's community. There's a men's community. People who have read our books, taken our courses, there's coaches on there. We're literally disrupting divorce. There's a plan for everybody. You can keep wallowing in your pain, getting a little information from reels or from a podcast or a live, or you can just move your relationship forward. You know, I don't know about you, but James and I would agree. I fucking love how I feel and who I am now. I'm not a rapist anymore. That's exciting for me. You might know why, right? I'm not an abusive prick anymore. You can understand why that's important, right? I not only am not those things, I teach men to not do those things. You might understand why that's important. And if you don't, it's because our world is going to shit. Our children's world, by the way, because you're almost dead. Let's look at it for what it is, right? If you're 40, 50 years old, you're less than halfway there. Oh, sorry, you're more than halfway there.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. So, like, if you want to be the mother they deserve, you will not stay broken. That's what you need to believe. The pain has to be less to change than it is to stay where you are.
Right.
And I think that's a choice. I just do. You know what I mean? If you want, you can change anything you want, even before it gets bad, before it gets worse. You know, your partner can sound like you, me, Cheryl, but it's going to have to be you leading if your partner's not in. That sucks. You know, it's about 25% of our business goes to, we have two companies. There's the men and there's the women's side. Okay. Catherine's is the women's side. And 25% of the businesses goes to Catherine's business. Here's what it is. You're the one watching. You're the one leading. You know what I mean? Here's the podcast again. You can also start with, you know, if you're afraid to take a leap, but you can listen to the podcast around your, I was going to say Catherine, get your own wife. But you can listen to the podcast around. But don't do me a favor. Don't do that if you're not going to implement what you're learning. Yeah. Right? You know, from the app, from the podcast, from our books, from the courses, whatever. You've got to be consistent with this, or your resentment will keep creeping up, and pretty soon you act like the coasting one. Okay?
That's right.
James, do you have anything else before we go?
No, I'll just say, guys, thanks for being here, and just hold fast and continue to just grow and let these triggers be a pause for you to learn something about yourself and the path forward. And if you don't know how to navigate that, that's why we're here.
Hold up. James is so right. But just in case this triggers anybody, I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek. Now, I don't have the robe on, but I filmed some content. Don't look. I filmed some content with this girl for you guys. Oh, man. Sneak peek. Okay.
World premiere.
Hopefully, I didn't trigger anybody. I'll prove my point on the content.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Oh, hold on. What if pain is the placement? Okay, Amanda, I think that you probably better benefit because we talked about a lot of that already. Just watch this back once it airs here. Yeah. Just go from the beginning and just watch it. And I think it's gonna really ring loud for you, Amanda. Okay. All right, James, thanks for your support, buddy. James is in the program. He's fucking loving on us here right now. You too, Bill. I saw you in there, and I know a couple other lords as well. Yeah, guys, if you're looking for Catherine, please DM her or DM me, and I'll send you over to her. And if you're looking for help, guys, DM me. Let's rock and roll. Go get your life.
Let's go.